Hey guys, it's Dr. KECK at the Sports Pod. Today we're going to talk about wrist pain. We get a lot of complaints from our gymnasts that they have this posterior wrist pain. Some people may refer to this as gymnast wrist, which is kind of a BS diagnosis if you ask me. That's kind of just a broad category of like a gymnast who has wrist pain, you're just going to get thrown in that category. So one, it's really important to come to us or somebody else who can actually figure out what's wrong with it so that it can be treated correctly. But we are going to talk about that wrist pain that you get that's like on the posterior side of your wrist. Why do you get this type of pain? A lot of gymnasts, so we've talked about this before, you have passive and active ranges of motion. So gymnasts are in like a category of their own when it comes to passive flexibility or passive mobility. This is like how your coach can come up and like put your leg behind your head, or you can go into an overstretch and passively do that, but can you actually get the leg up to there, or can you actually do that actively? So with the wrist, this means a lot of people have great flexion, so that's the flexion here, but then, including myself, my wrist extension is not very good. But when I'm pressing on it, so in gymnasts, a lot of times they get that posterior wrist pain when they're doing back handsprings or bounding off of that wrist that causes that excessive extension. Well, that's passive flexibility or passive mobility. So we need to close that gap between where they have passive flexibility and where we can actually be active in that range of motion. So that's what this video is for. So we're gonna start with smashing, and we always smash for 2 minutes at a time. We're gonna start by smashing into those wrist extensors. So I have a block here. You can use a book, you can put it on a table, you can really do whatever you want. We're going to start here, and we get 2 full minutes. We're going to really increase that tension by pushing down with the opposite hand, and then we're just going to go into that range of motion. So going all the way into your extension and all the way into flexion. Good. You can kind of hold it here at its lengthened position, really dig in there a little bit more. And you can really do this wherever you want. If you are really hurting more towards the wrist here, same thing, pushing really down into that. And we're going through that range of motion here. So our goal with this series is to increase that mobility of the wrist. So being able to actively extend your wrist to its full potential. So really decreasing that pain you'll have with handstands, back handsprings, vaulting, anything that requires you to be on your hands. Halfway there. So it's really important that we do 2 full minutes. That's the magic number. We got to get that time under tension to make changes in that muscle. Taking it through its full range of motion here. This should be uncomfortable, but not impossible. Good, we got about 30 more seconds. Seconds. Okay, and we're going to do the other side. Same thing, as you can see, pushing pretty hard. Same thing. You can do this up against a door. Really, it doesn't matter where you're doing it, as long as you are increasing that tension. Hold that tension, that's important too. To be able to hold that for the full 2 minutes. Today is like the first hot day in Texas. And I was not ready for this. It is hot. I am sweaty. So I started a puzzle a couple days ago, and I'm almost done. I'm not even really a puzzle doer, but what else can we do right now? What have you guys been doing during this time? All right, we have about 10 more seconds. Okay, we are going to flip it over and do those flexors. So we have our extensors of the forearm, and then we have those flexors. We're gonna do the same thing. So pushing down into here, really getting into those flexors, pushing down, and then we're moving that wrist through its full range of motion. You kind of move it to wherever you're feeling you need it most, whether that's closer to the wrist, further away. Just find those spots that don't feel so good. Really get into those. Over halfway there. Keep that tension on. About 30 more seconds left. Seconds. Alrighty, last one here. We're gonna smash the other side. Again, increasing that tension here, letting that wrist go through its range of motion and flexion and extension as you're holding the tension on that flexor. Flexor group. If you're not a gymnast, you may experience wrist pain with push-ups or, I mean, really anything where you're putting weight on your hands, and this is good for you too. So I know we said this was just for gymnasts, but really anybody with wrist pain. We're halfway there. What is the first restaurant you guys are gonna go to when you can go out to eat somewhere? I think mine is, I don't know, hard question, but probably E-Bar. It's like a little Tex-Mex restaurant in downtown Dallas. It's my favorite. Go to them. They're actually doing like the curbside pickup right now. So you can go to them now, but I don't know about you guys, but I just miss like going out somewhere with your friends and being able to order food. Apparently my hobbies include going out to eat and going to Target for fun. And I can't do either of those right now, so here we are. Almost there, 15 seconds. Five seconds. Okay, cool. So the next thing we're going to do are our wrist cars. And if you've been following along with us, you know what a CAR is. It stands for controlled articular rotation. This is a really big word for we are going to isolate that wrist joint, take it through its full range of motion, try to expand that range of motion. So I'm actually going to hold here so that I don't get movement elsewhere. And then we're just going to take your wrist through its range of motion. So we're going to start into that extension, coming out drawing the biggest circle you can with your fingers without moving anything else. You may notice a little bit of shakiness or cramping, and then you're gonna go the other way. That's normal. You might even experience some clicking. Again, that's okay. As long as it's not a painful click, we're just taking that wrist to its full potential. Drawing that biggest circle that you can. As you can see, mine's pretty shaky, pretty ratchety. I actually lack a lot of range of motion in my wrist, so this is a great video for me to be doing myself. Okay, let's get one more each way, and then we'll switch sides. Okay, switching sides. Might feel super crampy after that. That's completely normal. Mine is like on fire right now. It's normal. We don't do this often. We don't really take our wrist through its full range of motion very often, if at all. Again, just drawing the biggest circle I can. Ooh, this one's bad. With that wrist. Really trying to not move anything else. As you can see, I'm not very good at that apparently. I know, this seems like it should be super easy, and it's just really not. As you can see, I don't know if you can see this actually, but I'm having issues when I get to this point here. I get some shake. That's okay. Spend a little bit more time in the places that you can't quite get to. We're just isolating that wrist. This is also a really great way to just see where you're lacking range of motion. I'm really lacking here. So it's diagnostic as well as therapeutic, which is awesome. That's the cool thing about cars. Okay. Cool, we're gonna do 5 more on this side, 5 more on this side. So, coming up, biggest circle I can with my wrist. 1, 2, 3, 4, woo, look at those shakes. 5. Woo, shake it out, shake it out. Other side. 1, more shakes. 2, big circle. 3, 4, 5. Whew, okay. Shake it out. Now we're gonna go into a little bit of passive stretching into that flexion extension, and then we're gonna go into really building that strength in those end ranges to be able to do it actively. So the first one we call dolphin stretch. So we're basically going to take our wrists here, spreading our fingers. That really activates some more muscles in there, and then we're just going to hold this position for those 2 minutes. Again, uncomfortable, but not impossible, and I don't want this to be painful either. If you're in some wrist pain, this may cause pain if you take it a little too far. I don't want it to be painful. Just, you should feel a nice stretch through that posterior side of your arm. Really trying to keep that tension on, maintaining that pressure. Really getting a nice stretch through those extensors or those muscles on the back side of my arm. Halfway there. Important thing is we try to keep our elbows locked out here. If we're bending them, that's gonna take the tension off. So I really wanna make sure that those arms are nice and locked out. As you can see, if you wanna call them your elbow pits, whatever you wanna call them, facing forward so that your arm is nice and locked out in this position. And just holding that tension on there. 30 more seconds. Okay, so that is our dolphin stretch. And then the next one, I just named it the seal stretch. It's basically the opposite of the dolphin. We are going to have our hands out in this position. Again, really locking those arms out and trying to get to our maximum potential of that wrist extension. So this is again what we call passive flexibility. So as you can see, I'm pretty much at 90 degrees. When I'm just doing this myself, like when I'm like this, what is that, like 45? Pretty bad. So that gap between where I can do this passively and where I have it actively, that's where our injuries happen. So again, we're just trying to fill in that gap, get you to have active mobility into wrist extension. Hair is crazy. Halfway there. So if this isn't enough for you, you can always go into a push-up position here. That will increase that load on the wrist. But if you're doing this and you have wrist pain, probably not a good idea. So we can just stay here at this position here. And the more you back off of it, obviously the less pressure. But I do want you keeping those arms nice and straight. If we bend them this way, it's gonna take the tension off. Almost there. Okay, we've done these before. We're gonna go into what we call our pails and rails. So those muscle contractions at end range. We're trying to deepen that end range and have our motor control over it. So I'm going to, from this position, push my hands, not yet, but when I say go, push my hands into the ground for 10 seconds, and then I'm going to try to lift my wrists up this way. Most likely not going to happen, but it's the effort that we care about, okay? So in 3, 2, 1, really push those fingers into the ground, push, push, push. All right, and now try to lift those fingers off of the ground. You should be engaging this muscle here. This should be like cramp city, because most people aren't going to really be able to get their fingers off of the ground, but it's the effort that counts. All right, and we're going to push again. Push, push, push. Your finger should be turning white because you're pushing down so hard. Okay, and pull, 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 pull. Try to pull them up. As you can see, mine don't move at all. That's okay. All right, and our last set here, really push them into the ground. Push, 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 push. And pull. Pull them off the ground. Try to get them off. Okay, if it's easier for you to do that one at a time, that's completely okay. I just did them together for a time's sake, but if it's easier for you to concentrate on one at a time, totally cool with that too. Okay, the last thing we're going to do, I made this homemade contraption here. So, you can use a soup can if you're at home and you don't have anything, that's okay. From this position, we are going to roll up, 10, and then roll down. Nice and slow and controlled. Important things here are, I want you to keep those arms locked out as much as possible. I want the weight to be pretty light. It shouldn't be like super heavy that you can't do it. We're gonna do one more set. So 10, going up. And then 10, slowly going down. Good. So again, if you don't have the tools to do that, you can I just made that myself, so you can use like a broomstick and a soup can or really whatever you want. So if you have any questions about any of the exercises we did here, or if you do have some wrist pain and you have some questions about it, feel free to reach out to us on Instagram @thesportspod, or you can find us online at www.thesportspod.co.